What's up, guys? Welcome to day 2 of creating 2019. And I'm so excited because we are diving into a very juicy topic, a topic that has been really present for me in the understanding that we're in Mother Gaia, we are in her womb, and we get to really learn to live by her principles. We get to really learn about the cycles. We get to really learn about, sorry, I'm just letting Kristy know that we are alive. We get to really know about how to work with these energies that are directly impacting us and directly influencing our way of being. And when we are trailing opposite, right, as I've tended to do, because it was so taught to us to live in this masculine world that the world had created and adopt our ways to that. But in reality, we have both of these energies swirling within us, and it is so important to understand these principles of Mother Nature. And I am so excited to bring in one of my Capricorn sisters, someone that I have known in such a short time, but I have grown to love so much, such deep appreciation and gratitude for who she is. I have named her Queen Dignity because, as you all know, my company's named Dignity, because of how she carries herself and how she holds people with such love and dignity, and she is such an expert in these areas. So I'm gonna bring her on. I see her that she jumped on. What's up, Lauren, Rada, Marsha, Pam, Lords? What's up, baby? All right, let me see if I can bring her in this way. My sister Madeline, what's going on, babe? Okay, adding. And she woke up early just to be with us because she is in Australia and it is really early out there.
Hello.
I have to put my headset.
Amazing. Do you feel like that you would like me to have mine on, or can you hear me okay?
I need you because of the echo. So let me see how. Yeah, if you can do it too.
In there. All right.
Boom, we've eliminated the echo.
Better?
Yes, we've eliminated the echo. Let us know, guys. Please let us know who is jumping on, where you're jumping on from. Matilde, te tengo una entrevista en español en 1 hora, así que ya tú sabes. Espero ver a toda mi Spain. Rob, sorry, Kristy, I'm letting them know I have a Spanish expert, and I expect all my Spain peeps to be on it. Oreste, so many amazing people. I did an intro, my version of intro of who you are and how much I love and appreciate you, and how I coined you as Queen Dignity and why I coined you as that. And yeah, I'd love for you to introduce yourself. What is it that you do? How do you spread your magic in this world? And then we'll dive into this juicy topic.
Yes. It's really interesting. We were going back and forth on this, and it's one thing that I don't really know, but I will do my best in explaining what it is I do.
We hate titles.
Yeah, I'm really feeling that. Yeah. But I get to share as well. So it's interesting. I feel like it's a bit by trade, but also by passion. It's led by passion massively. And I'm in an interesting shift myself in this current moment, and it's super exciting. So by trade, I've been a personal trainer for nearly 20 years, and that's taken me on a beautiful ride. I really have been a coach. When I really looked at it, I've been a coach since I was about 10 years old, but didn't realize it at the time. So I grew up with sport, and that's been my way of expression, I suppose, is through activity and sport, and quite successful in that in an array of areas over my childhood and into my adulthood. So that, as I said, that's been my way of expression, is through success in sport and just moving my body in a way that has been my release, I suppose, up until my 20s. And it was very natural for me to flow into being in that industry for work. And for me, as I said, being a coach since I was probably 10 years old, coaching like the little tackers in sport, but not really realizing it. And then being a coach when I was in my own sport, but I ended up landing in like captain roles and vice captain roles. So like
no
an empowering,
accidents.
no accidents, but not really putting it together till a few years ago. And then fell into a lot of traveling, and then came back into really, what is it that I want? And I tried a few desk jobs, and it just was not for me. And came back to what is my passion? And my passion was movement. My passion was human body. And what really has just always been, the books that I would read as a kid, it was all to do with physical movement and health, vitality and well-being. And so it's been like I've been on a quest as well as from a young girl. But it's been interesting when you quest something, sometimes it always feels like it's just out of reach. And that was a massive turning point for me. Like whenever we're questing something, it's like we get further away from it sometimes. So I've had a beautiful journey in that, because we think that it's beyond us or it's not even here, when we know that that's not really the truth. So that's kind of been my journey into it. And it was a natural progression for me, but I've got challenges to remind me that this is my journey many times, and I've gone off course many a times for different reasons, but it always comes back to health, vitality and movement in some way, shape or form. And I land, as you said, no mistake, but I land in coaching roles in some way, or empowering roles, and that's taken on many faces over the years, but it's the same thing, bottom line. It's just inspiring people to move, something that I love to do. And I feel like human bodies kind of talk to me in some way, and I can really hear what they're asking. Yes, and in different ways. And it's like, I can really understand what they're asking for, and I'm like their voice until the human in them can listen to what they're actually asking, or they can be a voice for themselves in the end. Yeah, so that would be my journey. Personal training by trade, but by passion, it's human psyche, why we choose to do the things that we do, why we know what we would like and still choose the opposite. That fascinates the hell out of me. And and wrapping that up in just, optimal health and vitality and feeling alive and thriving whilst we're doing life, basically.
The thing that keeps coming up for me is like the vitality connoisseur.
Oh, I love it. And it's interesting you picked up on that word, because that's probably the word for me in my life that's been there the whole time. It's like, that questing, but it was like vitality. Like, what does vitality mean for me? And it means so many things, and it means so many things to so many different people. But that word is really special to me. So I'm really interested that you picked up on it, of course.
So let's dive in, because Mother Nature has played a huge role in my healing and evolution. And I want to hear from you, like, these principles. I'm excited to dive into it.
Yeah, it's really interesting. It's really alive for me right now as well. I've always had a bit of an affinity with Mother Nature, right from a child, but not really probably understanding like the concepts of it. And it's only really in the last few years when I've been on my own personal journey and realized that a lot of what changed or what made things pivot for me actually had a part of Mother Nature in there in changing, pivoting, or learning some lessons. And I was just like, there's something here. And to give you a little bit more of a background, when it comes to physical movement, because that's where I've played a lot of my career in, was I knew that there was more for me than just physical movement, but I couldn't understand what that was. I thought it was the psyche to start with, so the mindset or the belief in women, like I mentioned before. Yeah. And I knew I started to resent the career that I was in at some point, maybe about 9 years ago, thinking movement just doesn't cut it. Like, there's so much more, and we need to address that if we really want long-standing sustainable results for a human body. But then it becomes like humanity as well, like further down. So then I was starting to resent movement and exercise and wanted out, like a long time ago, and then really started to own. At the same time, I was kind of flourishing in my business at that time, and my business was taking off. And I was just like, oh, what is this? And it wasn't until I really owned and took responsibility for actually an ownership of, I'm actually a darn good trainer, and owning that. And I was just like, you know what? This is part of it, rather than ignoring that part, like for vitality and health and, you know, just like overall well-being. It is an aspect, so we can't forget about it, but it's also not the only thing. And if we only do movement and training, like, we're missing such a large portion when it comes to just well-being in general, missing the mental, the emotional, the spiritual, the food. Like, there's so many things to feeling vibrant and thriving in this world, and I just couldn't do exercise only. But I was going to ignore it completely, but that is a pertinent part as well. So it's been a real journey over the last at least decade of, what am I supposed to do? How's my message getting across without ignoring any of the facets, but not just honing in on the one as well? And it's just starting to come through now. And Mother Nature was the key to it all. Mother Nature was at the crux, and that was the kind of puzzle piece that I was missing. Or once I put Mother Nature in there and linked it all, I was just like, and and I was just like, yeah, it really was. And so I've been playing with this concept a little while, and it's really dropping in now, is how can we embrace the principles and really look at Mother Nature and what she's doing, because really we have everything that we need. She's like, Mother Nature, or the planet Earth, has given us everything to thrive or survive on this beautiful journey that we're on. So if we just actually look to her and see what she's doing and replicate that in some way, copy that, let's see and experiment and see what happens when we do that. And I really feel that that's where my work is now, is actually really bringing that into the physicality, to the emotional, the spiritual, but really living the principles of, well, what would Mother Nature do? She works in patterns. She works in cycles. She when she wants to grow something, like, there's a lot of stages, and we get to honor that and see if we apply those to our journey, what could possibly happen? Like, where's the possibilities, and let's experiment and see what happens. So that's where I'm in right now. And she was the missing piece. Yes.
I love it. Now, you know, the little kid in me is like, all right, let's get to the principles. What is it? What are they? And how can we apply them to ourselves, to our lives?
Yes.
And I dare say even our businesses.
So I'll just sit into that. So for me, as I said, it's something I'm playing with now. So what I would say today may change in a little while as I dive in. Yeah. And so I really would love just to explain it from where I'm taking it right now, what I know, what I'm feeling into. And I feel like it will become deeper and deeper over the months and years, maybe even days. However, I've got a small group coaching program that'll come through too, but I'd love to tell this story on how that's actually come through, because that will give kind of looking at the principles.
Yeah. Totally.
What I can see at this point in time. So when I was looking at like what and how, if we wanted to have growth or evolution or wanted to know more of ourselves as a human being and like really enjoying life and thriving in life whilst we do life here, what would Mother Nature do? And I was looking at it and I was like, okay, so if I wanted to grow something, what would I do first? I would actually aerate the soil. So I would turn the soil over first. So when I looked at that, I was just like, well, what does that mean? Like before we do anything, we need to mobilize. Yeah. So then I was actually like, from the principles of exercise, when I would look at how I would train somebody, if somebody new had come in, I would look at, you know what, we do the same thing in training. Before we really go and really load people with weight, they have to earn the right in actually being mobile enough to actually be able to carry the load. Because if I load someone and they don't have the movement in them yet, then what will happen is eventually I will injure them in some way, shape or form, because I didn't honour where they were at that moment, and I tried to progress them too fast. So when people come into our physical gym, mobilization was always our key first, until the human body and the vessel would earn the right to be able to be loaded. And also then understanding from an intellectual point of view, they needed to also understand how to move, like from their own point. So a client's mindset and understanding as well. So mobilize, I'm like, it's the same darn thing. Like you've got to mobilize the soil first. And the same principle came in when we looked at physical movement. We would always mobilize before we did anything else. So then I looked at emotional or emotional freedom, or what we've been doing on tour, and it's the same thing. When people have stuck and suppressed emotions and that rigidity, there's that mobilization, like everything is stuck. Yeah. So what we would do in these beautiful workshops and rooms that we've been so lucky to be traveling in, same principle, like before we can actually shift anything, we have to mobilize the emotion. And I'm like, it's the same principle again.
So feeling through the emotion, like bringing it up so that you move through it.
Possibly, or even a step before that, is actually like, what is actually stuck, and let's just get some movement in, and let's just have a look first at what is stuck before we even do anything with it, with the emotion, or even move through the emotion. We actually have to move it first to actually give it some space, give it some movement so it can come up.
Right.
Exactly. And I'm like, same principle again. So if we wanted to grow something in the planet, in the soil, and it's the same principle. So mobilization is always first. So that was where I was like, So mindset as well, same thing. So for me, like the structure, if I was to copy what Mother Nature does, mobilization will always be first. And we get to honor that and go through that process before we start even building a foundation. So that would be kind of principle number one for me at this point.
Mobilizing, meeting where you're at and mobilizing the ground, the emotion, the body, the mind, so that you get the soil ready for what you're about to see. Okay,
you got it. And
love it.
You look at Mother Earth as well. She goes in seasons and cycles, and you look at a female's cycle. Everything is cyclic, or everything is based on patterns. So it's interesting, when I would go back to human movement, one of the most profound things that I learnt from one of my mentors many years ago was, don't think or don't coach people in movement. So do a lunge, squeeze your butt, but coach them in patterns. And
break it down for me.
Okay.
What do you mean by that?
So trying to explain, or what am I trying to say here? Trying to explain or trying to have someone understand the concept of movement, but instead of doing it through breaking things down, like bend your knee, da-da-da, da-da-da, da-da-da. Instead, lean forward, like in concepts and patterns. Lean forward and try and touch your toes. And so actually, rather than bend your hip, bend your knee, drop down, stand up, instead it was like, teaching them in patterns or in concepts rather than in movements. Did that make
Right.
sense?
Yep, totally. Like sequences. You're breaking it down, but you're doing the full movement so that they get the pattern.
The concept, the pattern.
Concept. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's how Mother Nature works as well. Like she works
Totally.
in patterns, in concepts, rather than, and reoccurring patterns rather than in movements, and that's where science versus, and I think that could be where things went a bit pear-shaped at times was, how can I explain this? Science dissected and didn't look at a whole. Where Mother Nature is a whole. And and if we miss something or try to dissect things too far down, we miss the actual entirety, and you're only looking at a section of something rather than it in its entirety, and you could miss a really pertinent part of the whole if you're just focusing here.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So patterns and sequences, so trying to coach in those ways and looking at Mother Nature in pattern and sequences rather than movements or like fractions.
Love it. Love it. One thing that really comes to mind when I think about the Mother Nature and her brilliance is that change is always happening, and it's so subtle. Like, we can't see the season change in a night. However, every little day, it's gradually, subtly changing. And then before you know it, the season's changed. And I think it's so powerful to see it in ourselves, that these habits that we're seeding, these thoughts that we're seeding day to day are building into a change. And then here's where it gets cuckoo, where like people see the seasonal change in their lives and they're like, what the fuck? But they don't get present to the fact that, like, dude, you've been seeding this for fucking some time now.
Yes.
Like, you know, I curse when I get passionate, but you get, like, it's so powerful.
Yes, yes. And it's interesting, there's that saying, people overestimate what they can do in a month and underestimate what they can do in a year, you know, and
So
it's
good.
that same principle, you know. And I feel like that's the misconception of what TV shows and, you know, what's being put out there, or that instant gratification that we all want the hit, you know, and want it now, but forgetting that Mother Nature works in subtleties, and if we just copied that and was in it for the long haul and enjoyed the process of it, we would have a lot more long-term sustainable change in all facets of the planet, the earth, in human bodies and whatever else as well.
What do you think for you in your life has been one of the game changers with Mother Nature?
This is good. You know, for me, it's been really simple, and it was actually just taking time out, and I call them soul sabbaticals. That was probably one of the most profound, life-changing little tools that I was given maybe a few years ago. It's something I have done for a long time, but not regularly and not intentionally. And when I learnt the concept of it, I was just like, and then I could feel it in my body. So what a soul sab is, or basically the art of doing no thing. And it was really interesting when someone, it was actually Preston, when he said, when was the last time you did nothing, Kristy? And I went, well, I'm really good at doing nothing. I read books, I meditate, I journal. Like, I'm really good at taking time out to do nothing. And he said, no. When was the last time that you did no thing? And I went, fuck. I actually can't remember the last time that I actually did no thing. And just really the concept of that, the thing, and how we think that we are taking time out and doing those things and tapping in, you know, to ourself, and, you know, taking, you know, just slowing things down, but it's still an art of doing something.
It's so powerful that you said this, because the first thing that popped up for me was like, is Mother Nature actually doing anything?
That's true.
Maybe she's just being, and all of these things are like happening because she's so in tune with her being,
Yes,
right? So
possibly.
good. Maybe.
And yeah, and maybe. And also, there's a lot of stuff that's going on. So even though it looks like nothing, it's
Right.
something. But I feel like maybe the concept or the thing that really created it is the spaciousness to actually allow something to come up.
Which is
I
like
see something.
for you, it's the same thing. Like for me, when I would do these, because you and Preston, and I heard it, I feel in a bridge, it's the same thing. Like we're doing nothing, but on a science level, like our bodies are doing so much, and that spaciousness creates that space for us to be, for us to dive into this being that is fully operating, creating so much within ourselves and our organs, our bodies, our mind. Like so much is functioning without us doing shit, nothing,
Yeah.
nothing.
And it's interesting. I think that's the thing that, coming back to your question, it was where things changed for me
Yeah.
because I gave myself space where I was always like, do. And
Yeah.
I'll tell you the beautiful lesson I got from that too. But it gives us space and time to actually see or to feel or to recognize actually what is going on or what am I actually feeling in
Right.
my body. Because we're so do, we're actually not even tapping in and actually knowing like, why do I want to eat that? And then just go, I actually am feeling a little bit lost at the moment, or I didn't eat for a while and now my blood sugar's dropping. But because we're so like da, we're not giving ourselves space to actually tap in and actually see
So
what's
good.
already here and
So good.
what message and lessons or asks that the body or your soul are asking for, but we just don't give it the space to actually find out. And so we're guessing all the time. So if we actually just do the art of doing no thing, it shifted everything for me. And I was able just to literally just, I used to just sit, I still do, just sit and watch Earth and watch Mother Nature and see what happens and just observing. And then sometimes I'll observe how I felt or and it was just really interesting to watch. And I had so many aha moments drop in when I started to really take the time to do no thing. And how I felt in my body, I was so much more relaxed. I noticed that things didn't get on top of me emotionally. I didn't feel so overwhelmed. And then I stopped doing the practice so regularly. And this is where I really dropped in. And over a 12-month period, because I got so good at it, and it was like an ask of me, and then I started to let it slip again, and totally different in the way I felt and the way of my being and the way I showed up to the world was quite different because I wasn't giving myself that spaciousness and that time to do no thing and just observe and watch. Huge.
Love it. Love it. Now, what would you say are some of the must do, must know, must be when it comes to honoring these principles in our lives? Like what, and I know that there's so many because it's such an intricate, broad subject, but what would you say are like the top 3 to 4 things that people should really start looking at and being conscious of applying these practices in their life to mirror our Mother Earth's changes and her.
Yeah. Before I answer that, I'm going to quickly backpedal because I think we as humans maybe don't understand, or we've probably forgotten more so, that we are we are Mother Nature. And so we're not separate or we're not
Yes,
different too. And
such a
there's a
great
beautiful,
point.
yeah, before you even move that. So, yeah, like even, how can I explain this? Even answering that in a way, we have to remember that I love this saying. It's I'll write. If nothing else, one will when. So I've been reading a little bit of a book, and they say the principle is, and the profound understanding is to know that we as humans are a part of nature, not apart from nature. And that's where we've got that separation, that we're not a part of it. And if we actually remember that we are a part of nature and we're just one piece of the whole,
Yep.
Huge difference.
Huge. So, because in bringing it back to like the spiritual concept, this whole story is that we are made from Mother Earth. The human body is, you come from dust, you will return to dust. And when our body, scientifically, it's been proven that when our body decomposes, it shares with the elements of these cell salts. I don't know the professional lingo, but they prove that our remains, hey Elizabeth, our remains are part of this earth, are Mother Nature. And I love that distinction that you brought up.
Yeah, and I feel like that would be one of the biggest things, is really acknowledging first that we are not apart or separated from nature. We actually are a part of nature.
I just had like a what if like we really presence that the way we treat Earth is exactly how we treat our bodies.
Boom.
And
Boom.
can we look at that from that, just playing with us, like can we look at that perspective like, oh, how conscious am I as a living participant in this world with the Earth? And how do I treat it? How do I be with it? What am I contributing? What am I emitting? And then how does that mirror reflect back to us, how we treat ourselves, how we treat our bodies?
Yes.
So good.
Yes.
That was awesome. I just had a moment.
That's it. So I feel like number one would be like remembering that we are a part of it. We're a part of all of it. And when we remember that and understand that, you can start to realize that we have the same wisdom, the same patterns, the same sequences. We're made up of the same stuff as what she's doing. So again, that's where if we can just watch what she's doing and copy the principles or copy the patterns or the sequences, and let's just see what happens. And I feel like it's that separation and reminding and remembering that you are that. So then the concept in spirituality is that everything is within us. And if you really look at that, if we are a part of nature and apply to the same principles and really just working as one part of the whole with her rather than it's her and us, if we look at that and go, okay, so everything is within me. So all the answers are within me. If I just watch and observe and then listen to what's going on or what my body's asking me or what my emotions I'm feeling, if we actually just turn inwards, because we're made of the same stuff. So if we just turn inwards and listen and observe of what's going on, then that's the principle, and you'll know what to do. And that's when people are saying, like, go inwards, like trust yourself, give yourself space and time, like some downtime, or the wisdom is within you. Really, what it is like it's the same principles. Like if you're wanting something, or if you just watch what Mother Nature does, because you're the same, you're one and the same, and then use those principles or use what you're observing out there and try it on for yourself in a human reality.
Beautiful illustrated. But my analytical mind is like, okay, but steps.
But what? And this is where I'm working. So if you look at it, so steps, I said about mobilization. So next step would be fertilization. So once you have actually started to mobilize the emotion or the human body and starting to get some movement and some flexibility and some getting less of the rigidity out of ourselves, out of our life. So that can look emotionally. So what would it be to move rigidness? It might be to ask questions. It might be to actually do a meditation practice or something, or, how can I move rigidity first? That's what really mobilization is how can I just actually get a little bit more movement, dance, just something. How can I create a little bit more movement and a little bit more space so my body can drop some rigidity? It might be that someone is so schedule orientated that they drop a day and just have a weekend where they don't schedule or plan. Like how can you drop rigidity or become a little bit more flexible, agile in your human body. And that's where I wanted to touch as well. Like, there are so many bodies, and the three that I want to really play with at the moment would be the physical body, the emotional body, and the spiritual body. But there are so many other bodies.
Beautiful.
And what you'll notice is that a lot of people will just focus on the physical body, or they'll focus on the spiritual, but there are so many subtle bodies of this human experience and this universal experience. But for me, I think the easiest concept right now for people to really gain is just remember it's not just a physical body. You also have an emotional body that needs to be tended to and gardened. And also
gardens, I love that.
Yeah. And also and a spiritual body as well, you know, emotional, spiritual, and physical. And I think if people can really look at ways in which they can apply these principles to these three bodies, people can create some shifts. So when you're looking at that, you've got mobilize, and then you've got fertilize. Fertilize. So the moment that we want to start growing something, just before we plant the seed, we want to nourish the soil. So how can we, looking at it as building the foundation to grow something. So once you're mobilized, like learning the skills, learning the technique in movement, making sure that you build a strong base that you can work from. When you look at it, emotional health and well-being, once we've actually, and like you had said before, once we've actually moved and just got a little bit of, you know, movement and spaciousness in these emotions that we had suppressed, then we let them out, you know, and nourish and allow space for them to plant new seeds.
What would you say to someone that is numb and has suppressed their emotions for a long time? How do they get into the space of moving the emotions, mobilizing the emotional body?
Yeah, I love this. So, number one, breath.
Breath.
Yeah. Breath or air is probably one of the number one things that allows us humans to be on this planet. And so just coming back to the breath, filling the body up with breath, like taking some really deep breaths and creating even just space in the rib cages, and, you know, that can actually move something for people. And then there's a number of little exercises, but connecting the physicality to the emotions. So that would be the next thing. So for example, screaming. You could, you know, at the top of your lungs somewhere, into a pillow, in your car, on the top of the mountain, something like that to really shift it. Dancing is another one, or just moving the body in a way just to actually, and dance is an amazing one. Singing is also, like just singing at the top of your lungs is allowing stuff to move through. So it's connecting to breath would be first, and then trying in some way to actually move the energy through the body rather than just sitting in a chair and doing your breath. So you have to connect at some point with the physicality so the energy can actually move in, through and out.
Love it, love it. Because I so agree with that. I think moving the body creates space for the emotions to rise.
Yeah.
However, I do want to put this in here that
Yes.
when we experience the emotions, this is the trap that we do. We start interacting with the emotion, and we start dwelling with the emotion, and we start holding the emotion fixed and holding on to it and giving it so much attention. And Evan said this to me earlier, which is so awesome. I said to him I was going to quote him in the moment that it comes up, and it came up now, which is perfect.
Yes.
Whatever we give our attention to, we worship. So if you're feeling a emotion that you're resisting, if you hold on to it and if you focus on it and you dwell on it, then it starts to stay. You are anchoring it in your body.
Yes.
And it's so important to understand that emotions are rising so that we feel them and let them go. It is like tides, right? The tides rise with the full moon, and they're flushing up all this garbage to the surface so that it cleanses the ocean. And this is exactly what our bodies are doing. And now that you really put that perspective at the forefront for me, and I thank you for that, that we are Mother Nature. Our bodies are part of Mother Nature. So if she cleanses herself that way, our emotions are not just a gift in being that compass for us, right? But it's
Yes.
also these negative emotions, whether it's anger, whether it's hate, whether it's jealousy, they're coming up to be experienced, to be felt, but to allow them to move them. Don't stay stuck on it. Focus on what you truly want so that
Yes.
you build on that attention. You build that and amplify that energy. That just really
Uh,
came strong for me.
and to pity back that, Alexi will say, like, and if you look at it, it's the same as nature. We're in and out beings, like food goes in, food goes out. Um, what else? Water goes in, water goes out. You
Yeah.
look at the earth, like you said, the tides go in, the tides go out. Like everything has that contract and relax. How you want to grow a muscle is contract and relax. So you have to repetition in the gym
Yeah.
to contract and relax. So everything is an in and out sequence. And then us as humans with emotions, we feel them in and then we trap them. And that's really, if you just look at it again, are the principles of what Mother Nature does, just allowing in and out, in and out, in and out, in and out, contract and relax, contract and relax.
I love it. I love it. What would you say we're in right now? What season is this right now? And then we're going to start wrapping up.
Yes,
So
we need to wrap.
get ready for the next interview. But what do you feel the season is saying right now for us to dive into?
Collectively, because individually, everyone's at a different season on a different day, so and then you look at the hemispheres, and some northern hemisphere is in a different season to the southern hemisphere. So really looking at that and actually even understanding that, it's really hard to even answer that because, like you said, the subtleties, things are changing like constantly.
So much.
As a collective, I haven't even thought about it. So I would literally just be guessing or just going by an intuition hit, and I feel autumn.
Autumn.
Or fall, as you guys would
That's
say.
what it feels like over here in New York, which is so
Yeah.
ironic that you said that. It's cold,
Yeah.
but it's not that cold. But it
Yeah.
feels like autumn with a little bit of snowflakes.
Yeah. Yeah. And
So
just
what
to
would
touch.
autumn represent for us?
So, autumn would represent, I'm just having like starting beginnings.
Yeah.
Here we go. Things are starting to come in. So obviously, actually, hang on. I'm just flicking around here. No, autumn is going into winter. So I feel like there's still a presence of beauty or aliveness and like that little energy of spring. However, we're starting to, it's asking us to really go within a little bit more coming into winter. So really just looking at, I think it is. It's like feeling inwards, like moving inwards, but not ignoring what the energy and like still get involved with the energy that's going on outside of ourselves, but because it's beautiful. However, like really start to focus inwards because that's where we're going to make outward change individually and collectively.
Love it. Love it. Now, my last question, darling.
Yes.
What are your tips? What are your secrets? What are like your top must do, must be to create an epic year?
So my first one would be doing the art of nothing, like implementing that in some way to create spaciousness so you can actually answer that question for ourselves.
And let's just recap what that is. So it's creating little spaces, pockets of time in your schedule where you're doing nothing. You are not on your phone, you are not reading a book, you're not meditating.
No music.
You're just observing.
No friends. Just I used to do it. So you can go and do it watching the clouds. You can do it in a chair. You can do it in the bed. I used to do it in a hammock and just watch outside. But literally just nothing. I just put my timer on my phone, put the phone away, and then just know that when the timer goes, I can go on with my day. I would start with 5 minutes and work up to 45 minutes a day.
Nice.
And if you can get it in one chunk, that would be amazing. But don't hold yourself into that. Like just little spaces of time of the art of doing nothing would be huge. And I feel like when we create that space, then our own wisdom will tell us the next step a lot of the time. But for other things, movement is huge when it comes to walking and incidental movement as well. I feel like, and movement in general, like we had said, like to move the emotion or stuckness, or, you know, the body is designed, the human body is designed to move, and we sit a lot these days. So looking at ways in which you can get movement in to hold the principles and allow that mobility to stay within our bodies would be huge. And do what you love. Like, don't be rigid again on what that looks like, but allow the body to move, because again, we contract and relax, we're in and out beings, and the body is designed to move and needs to move, and that's how we can move a lot of things through and out.
Beautiful.
And then just looking at nourishment, like nourishing our cells and our souls. So what actually nourishes you food wise, and then what nourishes your soul, and do those things and make them a priority, because a nourished soul and a nourished cell will be basically everything. And watch your life change by doing that. So definitely whatever you feel nourishes you.
Beautiful, beautiful. I want to shout out all the people that have been live with us. Melissa Morrison, she's saying you are looking great.
Hi, Mel.
Elizabeth, she has been amazing recapping some of the things that you've been saying. John is on. What's up, John?
Hey, John.
Izzy, Jennifer, Michelle Moore.
Hi, Michelle.
Amazing. So amazing people. Thank you
good.
so much. I want to honor you.
Thanks, Mama.
You have something
I've
else?
got one more thing, because I know we want to wrap up, but I just want to make sure that people get that after fertilization, then you've got watering. So you get to water, because we need the watering and the constant attention to actually allow the space for something to grow. And then the last one is bloom. So bloom is, to me, is more like visionary stuff. Really, when you've got the principles and you've got this beautiful seedling, and the last thing it will do will bloom, and then you really that's your vision. So it's bringing your vision to life, but you've got to be able to mobilize, fertilize, and water to bring that vision to life as well, to bloom.
I love that. Say that one more time.
Okay, so to bloom, or to hold the vision and step into the vision, to bloom and blossom, we've got to actually make sure that we do the steps of mobilizing, fertilizing, and watering to actually allow ourselves to bloom.
So amazing. Guys, if you're not following this lady, please do. She's amazing. I'm going to put her website in the comments. If you have not signed up for this summit, please do creatingyour2019.com. You're going to get a lot of goodies, a lot of freebies from different experts. We have over 22 experts, and we're running a contest that whoever shares at the most lives will gain a session with me, a 2019 strategy session, and it's going to be practical, woo-woo, spiritual, intuitive. You're going to be getting a lot in that call. I want to honor you, Mama, for spending the time with me, for saying yes, for sharing your wisdom. I know that you're going to be rolling out some products that are really going to be mirroring these stages. And I'm excited, because this is going to be next level. This is innovative. It has not been done before. When you shared with me your vision, I was like, girl, I got chills. So I know this is spirit-led and so powerful and so needed. With that,
thank you.
We're going to be doing more lives. So when she's launching, we're going to do another live to really put it out there. So let me know when that comes out.
I will, for sure. Things have just got to finalize a little bit. But I just want to honor you as well. Like, this is just fabulous. And it's a testament to you and a reflection back to you of the quality of speakers that you have, and the heart of service and giving. Like, I know you personally as well. However, it is just a really high reflection of who you are. And I want to honor you and thank you very much for the opportunity, and on behalf of all the 21 other experts, like, the opportunity for us to share what we have with you. It's beautiful.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I received that. I love you.
Love you too. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye, guys. I'll see you in 10 minutes with the next speaker.
Bye, hon. Bye, guys.
Bye, guys.